Progressivism is one of the most influential ideas in modern politics, but it's also one of the hardest to define because it can mean things depending on the country and political movement being discussed. At its core, progressivism is the belief that society can improve through reform, innovation, and change, and through activism and taking action. So progressives, they generally believe that social problems are not permanent and that governments, institutions, and citizens can work together to make society much more fair compared to before, and it's more efficient and more responsive to people's needs. And the basic idea is simple. Society should not stay the same simply because something has always been done in a certain way. If a system is failing people, progressives believe it should be changed. So the roots of progressivism can be traced back to the Enlightenment, a period in European history when thinkers began emphasizing reason, science, and human progress. And philosophers argued that knowledge and evidence could help improve society over time. Rather than accepting poverty, inequality, disease, or injustice as unavoidable, many Enlightenment thinkers believed that these problems could be addressed through human effort and better institutions. And as society industrialized during the 19th century, new challenges emerged. As factories create economic growth, but they also produce poor working conditions, child labor, unsafe workplaces, and growing wealth inequality. And complex issues with, working rights. And many early progressives believed governments need to play a larger role in addressing these problems. By the late 19th and early 20th centuries, progressivism became a major political movement in countries such as the United States and the United Kingdom. This included issues on women's rights and wealth and income inequality, and working conditions. So in the United States, the progressive era is often associated with figures like Theodore Roosevelt and Woodrow Wilson. Progressives during this period pushed for reforms designed to reduce corruption and regulate powerful corporations and improve public health, expand democracy, and protect workers, and also advocate for women's rights. And many progressives believed that large monopolies had accumulated too much economic power and a concentrate of ownership and wealth that they argued that governments should regulate corporations to prevent abuses and ensure fair competition. And progressives also support reforms such as food safety regulations, workplace protections, and expanding voting rights. A key theme through the history of progressivism has been the belief that concentrated power should be challenged and that having a more fair society for everyone. And in the early 20th century, that often meant challenging political machines and monopolistic corporations. Today, it may involve concerns about large corporations, economic inequality, institutional racism, or systemic discrimination, or other institutions seen as limiting opportunity. And modern progressivism focuses on a wide range of issues, as they support policies aimed at reducing economic inequality. And this can include higher taxes on wealthy individuals, stronger labor protections, higher minimum wages, expanded social programs, increased access to healthcare and education, and much more affordable housing, and even better foreign policy, such as being more of a soft power rather than a hard power. I mean, the list goes on and on. So, with all these modern progressivisms that they support, and may possibly even expanding rehabilitation services and other government services. So as you can see, progressivism is completely different from conservatism when it comes to government involvement, because progressivism, they believe more in big government because they believe that governments need to intervene in many of these things to help society function better. And they often argue that economic opportunity should not depend entirely on where someone is born, how wealthy their family is, or based on their religion, like being Christian instead of like maybe other religions, or what disadvantages they may face. And they believe government can help create a more level playing field. And another major area of modern progressivism involves civil rights and social equality. And progressives often support movements seeking greater equality for racial minorities. Could be like, and even though this has improved in some ways over time, especially over the years of like, feminism, like, and I know it's like mainly this whole minority stuff is more like immigrants, religious minorities, and LGBTQ individuals, or people of color who don't fit that white Christian identity. But specific policies do vary, as the general belief that society should work to reduce discrimination and expand equal treatment under the law. Environmental policy has also become a major focus on many progressive movements, as climate change and AI is so volatile in a way that they argue that climate change requires government action, international cooperation, and long-term planning. And they often support investments in renewable energy, environmental regulations, and efforts to reduce carbon emissions. And another thing that progressives do believe is carbon tax is much more worth putting on corporations, especially if they're harming the environment in a way where they're throwing out fossil fuels out of the freaking air. So yes, healthcare is another area where progressives frequently advocate reform in some countries. And some support universal healthcare systems, while others support expanding access through public programs and regulation. And their argument is generally that healthcare should be a human right for a broader population and not based on a privilege. So supporters of progressivism often view these policies as practical responses to modern challenges, and a lot of people, it has shown support and has shown, this is one of the reasons why, we may lack trust in governments, because they just don't understand the realities that we face, like the challenges we face, and we want them to fix in a way, or help, because if we don't do anything about it, then things are just going to be the way things are. And argue that societies constantly change and political institutions adapt to new economic realities, technologies, and social conditions. However, progressivism does have its critics as well, as they often argue that progressives place too much faith in government solutions, and they may believe that expanding government power can create inefficiency, bureaucracy, or unintended consequences. Some critics worry that rapid social change can weaken traditions, institutions, or cultural norms that provide stability. And others argue that markets and private initiative often solve problems more efficiently than government programs. But there are also debates within progressivism itself, as not all progressives agree on the same policies. And an example is like some support moderate reforms with existing systems, and while others advocate for more significant changes to economic or political structures. For example, one progressive may support stronger regulation of capitalism, while another may favor more extensive government involvement in the economy, and both may identify as progressive despite disagreeing on specific solutions. So this is one reason why progressivism can sometimes be difficult to completely define, and is less of a single set of policies and more of a broad philosophy centered around reform and improvement. And the idea of progress itself can also be controversial, as one person sees progress, another person may see as a mistake, and different groups often disagree about what improvement should look like and how quickly change should occur. And the debate is one of the central tensions in politics, as progressives, they generally emphasize the need for change, adaptation, and reform, while conservatives often place greater emphasis on preserving those institutions, traditions, and social stability. Most democratic societies contain elements of both perspectives, creating ongoing debates about the direction society should take. In many ways, progressivism asks a simple question: if a problem exists, what changes can be made to improve it? Whether the issue is poverty, healthcare, education, inequality, discrimination, environmental concerns, or political reform, progressivisms generally believe that human societies are more capable of making meaningful improvements over time. And while people may disagree about what progress looks like, the belief that society should become better through collective effort remains at the heart of the progressive tradition. Well, thanks for listening to Vote and Voice. If you enjoyed this episode, consider following for more discussions on political ideologies, societies, and the ideas that shape the modern world.